Yeah.
My favorite.
It's Judd's Hockey Show.
And it is Judd's Hockey Show on this Monday morning. AJ, Judd, Jesse Pierce to come tomorrow on a JHS as well. So plenty of content this week as the Wild stumbles and or fights its way to a playoff spot, which is still a thing. But AJ, let's start with what we saw that transpired on Saturday night. Wild lose to the Devils, and postgame both downstairs at the John Hynes presser. And, I expected the normal John Hynes, hey, we didn't play great, but we're a good hockey team. Something along that line.
Yeah.
And for one of the few times this year, I felt he couldn't really hide his disgust with his team's performance, which got me to thinking. Because I told you on the way back upstairs, I feel like we've seen worse. I feel like we've seen worse performances. That was not good, but and it occurred to me, I think that was based solely on one thing. I think that was based on the fact that what he considers to be his best players didn't show up. Because the Wild, they came off this Capitals win on Thursday, which was a really good game, a really complete game. And as we've continued to pound the table about, really, they worked their asses off, but you have to win. Mm-hmm. And so then on Saturday, 5 o'clock face-off against the Devils, they sort of no-showed the majority, if not all of the first period. They got a goal late. Second period, I thought played pretty hard. Third period disappeared again. And I'm like, why is he so upset about this? Well, timing, as the season clocks down, is obviously one thing. The St. Louis Blues have now won 9 consecutive games and are tied in points with the Wild. But the other thing that occurred to me is, if you look at the line juggling that he did late in that game in the third, it involved the guys, Marco Rossi, that he considers to be among his best current players. I thought Boldy didn't have a great game, and he did against the Capitals. So, in trying to say, why did he go Hynes a couple of weeks ago? We have a good team. We have a really good team. It's like, you didn't play well. And it's like, we have a good team, though. I think that his patience was far more tried by, let's say, the play of the Boldys and the Rossis than it was by, the entire team itself.
Yeah, and I think part of it, too, is just, how big that last win for this massive homestand in March was, because if you win that one, the record for the month at home goes to 7-3-1, where I think that it's only one difference either way, but it sounds a hell of a lot better than 6-4-1, wrapping up before you kind of go back on the road here. So it's the timing probably is the biggest factor there. You're now single digits away from the end of the regular season. And kind of have your guys just no-show a certain game like that, especially against a lesser team than what you had previously just beat on Thursday. You could have absolutely played that same style of game and probably come out with a win, and they just didn't. And your point is exactly right. I mean, we've seen them have worse games. Like I mentioned to you as we were walking back up after you said that, which was they at least played 20 minutes of hockey on Saturday night. They played the second period, part of the first, but mainly the second was their period. And it felt like they were kind of getting the momentum back. They were playing their style of hockey. We've seen them just flat out no-show games altogether earlier in the year. So why is that one? It's because the timing. So it's and it was very well emphasized in his presser during after multiple questions that they will address things. They will address it. So for everybody that may have missed it, when asked multiple times about just the energy and, how to kind of get back on track, it's just, we'll address it, was the quote from John Hynes. And that was, you could probably count that 5 or 6 times that he mentioned that during the presser. So clearly, like you said, it was evident that he was not thrilled with the performance, with the effort of a lot of guys. And whatever practice happened yesterday, I think it was Jesse Pierce put out a tweet, but a picture of, hey, they're addressing it. I was surprised to see a puck. I was surprised to see any little black rubber discs on the ice, because I expected anything addressing it involved solely bag skating. So I'm not sure if that means they earned a puck or two, or maybe addressing it didn't go as far as I thought.
Well, and that's the weird thing, though, is I think that, the fourth line the last 2 games, God bless them, they can't score. But the Trennan, Shore, and Brazeau line has worked their asses off. And so that's where I think I wonder if he also had private discussions with Rossi and Boldy. Like that's because I kept coming back to you've seen worse. Now there are some high end guys that I thought were not good and incredibly, disappointing because the Washington game, I believe that if I'm not mistaken, the Capitals entered that game with the most points in the entire league. You got the Ovechkin goal chase, and I mean the Wild took great pride in that game, rallied and won. And so I kept coming back to what's he like? Okay, are you upset with like the third line? He promoted Hartman to the first line in the third period, and Hartman worked his butt off. And so it's like, no, that's not it. He's mad at his top players, and so like I think the fact because they had a practice that they ordinarily by this time of year cancel. So at first I'm like, okay, what's he going to do in practice? But then the more I thought about it, I bet you he sat down with some very instrumental guys and said, we can't have this. But this is Boldy. Like, this is what he does, which is why I hate it. Like, he'll be phenomenal. And then it's not that he's not good. He's always pretty good. It's the engagement factor. Because he can border on a star when he's engaged.
Yes.
And when he's not, he's good. He's a good player. But that's not good enough. Not with Kirill out, not with Ek out. Rossi, I thought, was non-existent on Saturday. So I came to the conclusion he wasn't really that mad at the entire team. He was really mad at a few guys in particular, rightfully so, frustrated. And, going from the Capitals game to the Devils game, Age, we've harped on this for a few months now. Like, that's the maddening thing. When the intensity is turned up, dialed up, these guys can work their asses off and play well. And they don't have enough scoring talent not to. Like, they're not assured, without Kirill, they're not assured of goals. And so that's where I think Hynes was like, and you're right too, the homestand's coming to an end. It started off a little clunky. I think you beat Boston in the first of your 11 March home games, but then lost that game to Pittsburgh, lost like 2 or 3 games. So anyway, you had a chance to finish strong. There's no reason with now, I think 9 games left, not to finish strong. And you're like treating it like it's a Saturday in October. And so I think I think he's walking a fine line here of, the team is tired. It's late. Things are sort of beginning to fall apart a bit. But then, hold on a second here. All my best guys against the Capitals showed up. And against the Devils, who, by the way, have a ton of guys hurt, but play really hard and are very much a playoff team, inexcusable. And I think that's where he got just completely frustrated on Saturday in watching that game.
And I think at this stage, nearing the end of his third full NHL season, I know he had 47 games in his rookie year, and then he's got an 81-75. He's now at 74 games. He's played in every game for the Minnesota Wild this season, Matt Boldy. I think it's fair to say this streaky kind of up and down guy, as much as I think I was optimistic and turned a blind eye to that being a regular thing, was hoping that, he's a young player, he's still adjusting. I think this is just the norm for him now. I'm no longer going to make that excuse. I know you've been on that train for a while, and I was very hesitant to get on.
I hate it.
And that's exactly why I hate it too. He feels like, and we see when he is on, he looks like a guy that is a easy point per game player. But now we're sitting here 74 games in. He has 24 goals, 38 assists. And I understand you've missed your best player, who is a top 5 player in the NHL, if not top 3 on some nights. For 35, 36 games now, and I get that. But you are too good of a player to solely rely on having him on the ice with you to create any sort of offense. You're sitting at 62 points. Right now, he's projected to finish with 69. That's just not good enough. That's not good enough. And that goes to the consistency. If he's a more consistent player, you're getting close. They've reverted back to being this team right now that is, and we've talked about it. And granted, we know what the capabilities are and what they have on their tool belt, but they're not a team that can put up 4 or 5 goals every single night because they just don't have that talent right now. But Matt Boldy is a guy who you should look to create, to up that 1 to 2 to 2 to 3. 2 to 3 goals a night, you're winning more hockey games, not 1 to 2. And you need a big shutout effort or a big stand on his head effort by Philip Gustafsson, who they've been riding hard the last, 2 weeks now. That's another topic entirely, but him at this stage, I think it's very fair to say that this streaky up and down is just exactly who he is. and he's going to have to really show you, myself, all the fans something different, especially going into the postseason. Like if there's ever a time to really kick that monkey off your back, it's playoff time. But right now, if I see a bad game, I'm like, all right, we're going to get 2 or 3 more of these before he really starts trying again.
Yeah, and so they're playing the Devils in Jersey tonight, which is Monday, and I would expect a Boldy bounce back game. I bet he has 2 goals. I bet he looks fantastic. He's totally engaged, which is an indictment again of how poorly he played on Saturday. It's not a oh man, congratulations. This is how you should play every single game. You're needed. Like this is needed. He's making $49 million over 7 years to play his best every single night. Are there going to be off nights? Yes. Should there be multiple? Absolutely not. I also think that part of the Hynes frustration is Faber. Just in particular, he made a dumb play. It didn't cost him. It almost did. But the 3-on-1 that was 3 Devils going in against poor Jared Spurgeon, and Spurgeon made a nice play. The Devils screwed the play up because Timo Meier, instead of cutting out, because it was a 2-on-1, and the third guy, Meier, went in and actually blocked the shot with his skate and probably saved a goal. So
he zigged when he should have zagged.
Thank you very much. Exactly right. But that play was set up by Brock Faber pinching in and then throwing a blind pass into the slot that was picked off, and the high slot. So it's picked off and turned back. I know it's been a long year. And Boldy, he also played in the tournament as well, the Four Nations tournament. But all that being said, I think I sense some frustration there, because if nothing else, you cannot afford your defenseman now in trying to create offense to make dumb plays in the offensive zone and cost yourself. So I'm guessing that left a mark with Hynes, because like that's just simply a play when you're fighting for a playoff spot that you cannot afford one of your best and smartest defensemen to make.
Yeah, his game has looked a lot rougher here recently since coming back from Four Nations. And whether it's just pure tiredness or what happened, is it like last year where the final month or so he was battling some sort of like rib injury and we didn't really know about it until after the season, broken
Fractured,
rib.
I think, yeah.
Is that sort of the case here again? I wouldn't put it past them. I mean, given one, he did it a year ago, and also given their injury history, they need as many guys in the lineup as possible. Like you need a Brock Faber in your lineup, even if he's at 50%. He's probably better than who's their next best defenseman that they called up, Cameron Crotty. I'm not familiar with his game all that much, but I bet you it's Brock Faber 9 out of 10 times.
It's not Zeev.
It's not Zeev. How good has he looked? Anyways, it's a serious topic, because Brock Faber has been like their best defender. You still see it on a night-to-night basis in spurts, but it's not as consistent as he was. Like, and that's the thing where compared to Boldy, where he's just taking, I feel like, off nights, I still see engagement from Brock Faber, but the problem is that there's too many shifts now. And because we have talked about it before, where it's like we remembered the 1 or 2 mistakes he made over the course of an entire game when he's logging 29 minutes, because they stuck out more. Like it just wasn't a normal thing. Now it feels like it's almost every other shift. It's a pass to the high slot that's very errant and gets picked off, or it's a bad pinch, and all of a sudden now he's left his D partner out to dry. Or, it's just like he kind of flubs a Holden at the blue line, and they have to come back out after having offensive zone possession. It's much more consistent now, and it is frustrating, especially as a fan, but I'm sure for a guy in the room, knowing how good he is and how analytical about everything John Hynes is, it's probably wearing on him a bit to know his top defender just isn't playing like the same top defender he typically has.
And Hynes clearly wants his defensemen to jump into plays and be active, which, because they don't score goals a lot, it probably helps. But I think what frustrates him too is when Brock does, that play itself, that pass was irresponsible. Like that's not a helpful play. That's not a getting the puck in. That's not a trying to get the puck on goal. That was just I'm trying to make a play. And I'll come back to it again. I think he looks exhausted. I think he's playing a ton still. He didn't get a break. I think he looks like a guy who, and it's not just the physical exhaustion, AJ, it's the mental. To me, he's making mentally poor decisions that he does not make if he is fresh. And I just think this is a lot to ask. I think it's a lot to ask of a guy who is this important, is going to log, extremely high time on ice. And it's like that pass to me is not a pass that he makes in November.
Spot on.
And if he does, he might get back.
Yeah.
Like he couldn't get back. So I think there's some frustration from Hynes that's justified completely, but I also think that there's some frustration about things that probably go beyond the players themselves. There is no way, right, on God's green earth, that the Four Nations is not in the back of John Hynes' mind. Eriksson Ek out because of it, I'm sure.
Yes.
Brock Faber exhausted. So I think we also saw some frustration as well in the postgame on Saturday.
Yeah, and I would say with that too, it's like, there's got to be, and that's going forward. There's going to be zero chance that happens at that stage of the year again, right? Like these in season, and I know they really don't have a choice next year with the Olympics. That's the set
and the Olympics is going to be worse because you're going
that
to
is going to be worse.
Italy, and the league is going to have an all-star game.
Wait, why? Wait, what?
Because they make money off of it.
Is that new, or did I just miss that?
No, it's been around. No, they see, because they championed and sponsored. I don't know the league itself when it comes to the Four Nations face-off.
Yeah,
that was their tournament.
Absolutely,
so
yes.
They're involved. The Olympics is not. The Olympics is something the players want to go to. So they're like, fine, but if you're going to do that, we want to control the All-Star game. Because so the tournament this year was their All-Star game.
Yeah.
It was clearly not, but it was great. But this is so we're going to have an All-Star game. You think this schedule was bad? This schedule was bad? You wait till next year's.
The Wild
All-Star break.
The entire month of like January and February or something.
I mean, this is a whole different thing. But if you think players look tired now, like star players, you just wait.
I feel, where is the All-Star game next year then? Because that's going to be the most half-assed thing
Islanders
of all time.
Arena? UBS, maybe?
I feel so bad for the Islanders faithful.
I don't. Beg the All-Star game. Don't show up.
But that's what I'm saying, because people are going to go spend their hard-earned money. You already know how expensive like regular season games are. This is the All-Star game. It's marked up. You're going to have, Nikita Kucherov walking these like skill drills, and people are going to like, they saved up to go. Like, I'm not saying that's like, we know how bad it is, and they should kind of know. But at the same time, they got to fill the stadium somehow.
Yes. Well, and at the end of the day, now the All-Star game is for sponsors. So that's who, that's what they want to appease the sponsors.
Yeah.
And the Olympics don't allow that. Exactly right. All right. One more very important topic to get to. But before we do that, I want to talk about a bucket list item for hockey fans all over the world. And that is the upcoming World Junior Championships, which will be in our town. It's going to be great for 10 days, starting on December 26th of 2025 at the X and also 3M at Mariucci. This is the best annual tournament, folks. I'm telling you, in hockey, it's a who's who, as AJ can attest, of future pros, of high draft picks. It is as sports dad approved as it gets. I watch this thing every year. It is fantastic. December 26th through January 5th of 2026. Lock in your tickets now. Group play packages are on sale now. Go to worldjuniorsmn26.com. That's worldjuniorsmn26.com. These are 16-game packages for Group A or Group B, preliminary games, as well as quarterfinals, semifinals, bronze, and the gold. This thing doesn't come around much. I think the last time it was actually in our town, it was a round-robin tournament in 1982. It's changed a lot.
I wasn't even born yet. Keep that in mind.
Like, by a long shot.
By a long shot. It's not a once in a lifetime. It's maybe twice, but if you want to guarantee you get this experience out of the way, this is the time to do it.
Amen, brother. World Juniors, MN26.com. This show can attest for the greatness. I contend it's the best annual tournament in sports. Take that, soccer fans. Okay. Kirill Kaprizov, Judd Eriksson Ek are skating again. They're skating again in practice. That's a very important distinction, not by themselves. it sounds like Kaprizov had his surgery done in New York. The
Mhm.
Wild is going there for what? A game against the Devils, the Rangers, Islanders as well, I believe.
Yeah, they've got that New York swing.
Okay, so Kaprizov is going to get examined. I think it's today, Monday, and we will find out from there. John Hynes basically said that there is and he didn't say what it is, that there's a timetable for Eriksson Ek. So there's a definite, because I think his leg busted. So there's a timetable there. On Kaprizov, it sounds more open ended. When do you think Kirill Kaprizov, if he returns in the regular season with, I believe it's 9 games left, when do you think he is back, AJ?
So he's getting looked at by the doctor today, and it's very fortunate, like location wise, that they just happen to be going out here. Maybe that was just chosen in part because they knew based on where they were in the schedule wise when we get this, maybe it'll kind of work out where he can join us on the road. But the fact that both are joining on the road, like you could have had this consultation over a video call if it wasn't like you were close. That, in my opinion. You're going out there to kind of get the final approval, have the doctor look at it intensely in person to really say, yes, you're ready to go out and play NHL level professional hockey again on this, post-surgery leg, groin, whatever it is. On lower body. We don't officially know. But I would say he probably does not play tonight. And I would say it's a coin toss for Wednesday. I would lean 80+% Friday against the Islanders. I think Islanders on Friday, the 4th of April, is going to be your Kirill Kaprizov welcome back. Because when's the last time he went on a road trip? It's been a while, right? Like you don't just travel on a road trip to then not play.
Since the surgery.
And I feel like knowing everything we know about Kirill, people talking about how much he has missed just being on the ice. Now he's practicing with the team. That's a significant step. He's going to see that first game, second game. He's probably going to be pushing. They might say, "Look, we stole a point or whatever. We're still kind of we're fine in the wild card standings. And the Blues have passed us up because they won their 12th game in a row. Who cares? But we need to keep the gap. We're going to bring you back on Friday. I think Friday against the Islanders is probably when he comes back.
Now Hynes has said he's not going to come back on this trip. Hynes has said he's not coming back on this trip. But that doesn't mean that the kid won't. I guess here's the question. How much do Kirill and his people have a say here? Keep in mind that the Wild wants to sign him to a long-term extension on July 1st, and they want to keep him happy as possible. And clearly, if he comes back, it helps them. As long as he doesn't blow out, let's just say, hypothetically, it's a groin or hernia surgery of some sort. As long as he doesn't blow it out completely. So this is where it's going to be. And I think you're almost more fortunate if a guy just breaks a bone. Yeah. Like Ek, he's just going to come back when he can come back and it's pain. But this is much more, this scares me more because yes, there's leeway to bring him back, but there's also probably more margin for error in screwing up the decision. Mm-hmm. So I got to admit, not surprising coming from me, I have to admit, I've got some real trepidation here because, they're panicked. Yeah. They are now tied. I believe they're technically ahead of the Blues. They're tied in points. The Wild has a game in hand. So the Blues have played one more game. But all of that being said, yeah, it's gonna be really intriguing. And I would not be surprised one bit if you're right, and that the Wild is just trying to say, hey, he's not going to come back on this road trip, so people for now quit asking. That's my guess.
I think so too, because then it's like if he misses the first 2 games, well, you mentioned that we're trying to get him back on the road trip, so now all eyes are on this Friday. Right. So and now if he doesn't play, it's break glass, panic, emergency. What's going on? Why isn't he in the lineup? I think it's good for them PR wise to get out in front of him and say, we're not really aiming for it. And if he does come back that first day, they're back home against Dallas on the 6th. That a Sunday? Then sure. I just need it to be more than 2 games before the end of the regular season so we can actually get a good gauge on where he's at, because he needs to kind of get up to speed. But also him in the lineup is going to help them set or clinch that spot a couple games sooner, because I think personally, once they do that, I need Brock Faber to have a night or two off. As much as
they won't do that.
They won't, but as much as I chastise load management, especially in other leagues here in the U.S., I do think that's a guy that needs a night or two off before you go into a battle for the postseason.
The problem is, I don't think that they have a defenseman that they trust right now. I mean,
if the Blues keep winning and there's really no chance of you bumping back up to that wild card 1 and you clinch the wild card 2, like if it's a meaningless game, I don't see why not.
Yeah,
because your final couple games are against Anaheim.
Yeah, the problem is that but the real problem is the 2 games on the road before that are Calgary and Vancouver, who are chasing you. So if you're not locked in, those games become of paramount importance.
Could they do it? I'm trying to think. Could they do it by Wednesday against San Jose on the 9th? Because they're 6 points up right now. Both Vancouver and Wild, 74 games played.
They're 6 points up on Saturday.
That's true. Yeah, this road trip is pretty important now.
And how much can you expect? See, my question too is off the bat, what does Kaprizov give you? Because when he got folded up against the Jets a couple of years back and came back right before the regular season came to an end and then played in the playoffs against Dallas, he was not the same player. So that's my big thing is, what are you getting? I mean, he's still a marvelous player. He'll still work hard, which also concerns me, but what are you getting? Which Kaprizov? Because I don't think that you can expect, I would say for the rest of this season, if you expect him to play like he can, you're going to be disappointed.
Oh, he's not going to be the same player that I think everybody saw earlier this year.
So he might pot a few goals, but if I'm correct on this, AJ, I believe in the series against Dallas, it went 6 games? They went 5 or 6 games. He scored 1 goal.
Yeah, and that was, if I remember correctly too, that was in part because they refused. No offense, Dean Evison. Maybe I'm going to say offense. You didn't change anything up. You didn't. Oh, right.
But Kaprizov still did not look. I mean, aside from that, he just didn't look like himself because he'd been hurt. He missed absolutely. A ton of time. Now he's missed more time. He's been out. He's missed. I think I did the math after I got home on Saturday. I think he's missed 36 of the past 39 games.
They threw a graphic up, and we were both there on Thursday night, but on the TV monitors, they have kind of hovering in front. On the TNT broadcast, they kind of showed the contrast between with and without Kirill Kaprizov. They are they miss on 1 full goal per game when he's not in the lineup. And granted, you're not going to get that back, but even if they add half a goal back, so it's every other game you get that extra goal. Yeah. He's not going to be the same player, but he is just so crucial to the offense and creativity of this team that you need him in your lineup. It's not going to be the same, but it's going to be a lot better than what you have now.
All right. We will be back, as I said, with AJ disgusted, John Hynes disgusted. Jesse Pierce joins the show tomorrow, so we'll see if the Wild now bounces back with a spirited performance against the Devils on Monday night to see if they can avenge the loss on Saturday.
What's that official Boldy prediction for tonight? That bounce back game? And you say 2 goals?
2 goals, big smile, working hard. And then the next game, I got no clue. See you later.